Hey, my friends on Facebook from all over the world, from Turkey to Los Angeles, from New York to Nigeria. Grant Cardone in the house doing power players. And I got a guest for you today. I got the real deal, the People's Shark, the most phenomenal ABC man in the history of ABC. ABC, okay? The dude's a best-selling author, Power Broke, Display of Power, The Brand Within. He owns Daymond On Demand, which is an online platform to light entrepreneurs up and get them in the black. His new company, okay, after the one you know him for, the FUBU $6 billion deal, okay? His new company, Blueprint & Co., we're going to be talking about today. I have with me Daymond John, power player.
What's up?
Great to have you here.
Thanks for having me, man.
Appreciate you being here. There's people joining in. I know, you're used to people joining in from all over the world, right?
I am. It's an honor.
Yeah. Look, Shark Tank is seen in how many countries now?
You know what? I have no idea. I know there's different versions of Shark Tank and Dragon's Den, but I know that, Shark Tank that I'm on because of CNBC and ABC, it's in Portugal, Australia, a whole bunch of places I haven't been.
So where do we want to start today, Daymond John? Have you always been a man of power? That's what this show is about. I talk about people that got in positions of power and how they got there.
You know what? I think I've always been a person who's been in control of my destiny, but I can't say necessarily power growing up, of course. I think, I was underneath people and hoping to be like some of these people out there. But now, over the last probably 20 years, I've been really somebody who has had the power, that I wanted, whatever. And I've been successful as far as I'm concerned, what success is.
So when you say control of your destiny, Daymond, when did you start getting a sense of like it was up to you?
I got a couple of hints of what it was up to me. I've been successful as far as you got an echo going in there. You got it?
So when you say control of your destiny, Daymond, when did you start getting a sense?
I'm definitely not in control of the audio right now.
Yes, an amateur is over here.
All right. We're going back to it now. We good?
We good.
All right. So I first got, I first realized I was in control of my destiny when I took hats and I stood on the corner. I think it was 1989. And I stood in the corner and I sold a bunch of hats that I made with my hand, and I sold them directly to people that didn't know me. That was the first day in 1989, Good Friday, that I realized I was in control of my destiny.
And so you're selling a hat, New York City, I guess, right?
New York City.
And on a street corner, you're like a guy out of work. You're one of those dudes.
I'm one of those dudes, but I'm not out of work. I actually had a job at Red Lobster, but I was just the guy who had some real flavorful hats that I needed to tell you about, and that if you didn't have one of these hats, you would never get a girl for the rest of your life. That's the guy I was. So
was that your pitch, man?
It all depends. I mean, if you had a big head, I said, these hats are made for people with big heads. If you look like you desperately needed to find a girlfriend, that was the angle of my pitch. If you needed to stay warm, whatever it was that I felt, related to you was the angle of my pitch.
So that's awesome because I teach pitches. And so you were basically taking whatever was given to you on that person or in the environment.
Absolutely, but I wasn't manipulating it either. I want to make sure that people are clear. I wasn't selling something to somebody that I didn't feel they needed. I felt they needed, and I felt that I added more than enough value, and that I was putting you on to something that was new, one of these new versions of hats that all the hip hop artists were wearing.
And Daymond, you've been reading the situation for quite a while then. Since 1989, you've been kind of reading what's going on, and that is what an entrepreneur does, right?
Yeah, an entrepreneur absolutely fills a void, but an entrepreneur knows what's in it for the person that they're pitching, and not what's in it for them.
But like, let's go back to the hats, okay? So you're pitching the hat. I mean, you did have some interest in taking care of yourself in that moment.
I absolutely did, but if I didn't take care of the customer and I didn't provide for the customer, I wouldn't have anything to take care of myself with. So listen, the version of wanting to feed my family and the wanting to share something that I felt was great with the rest of the world, that was what an entrepreneur does. They want to solve a problem. They want to make sure they take away problems from others. They want to share something with the world, and they want to be, they want to create a community around it. So that's what I was doing for myself. What I was doing for my customers, as far as I felt, was I was the one giving them a key or telling them something that was going on and being the first to share it with them so they can go off and feel special, and they can tell another person, and then $6 billion later, it all started with that one hat that I sold because it kept going for 20 years.
That's amazing, man. That is a great inspirational story that is, I'm sure, has caused many, many people to wake up an extra day. So look, what was it like? Did that thing get bigger than you ever imagined?
It did, but you know what? I don't want to give everybody the Cinderella story. I closed the company from 3 times from 89 to 92 because I kept running out of money. And then I finally got noticed 96, 97. What was my biggest hope and dream? My partners and I, we thought that hopefully we would have enough money to start and open a boutique where all 4 of us would have a job. But other than that, I never thought that it would become a global company.
What was the biggest challenge with scaling up to something that big? Or did you get help with that?
Well, I got help with the scaling part, but the 7 or 8, 9 years prior to that, that was the biggest problem. And it was the problem that every entrepreneur goes through. It was, how do I find a good partner? How do I find funding? How do I increase my distribution? How do I learn about manufacturing? How do I manufacture at a decent cost and come out with a product in a timely manner? How do I not let the competition beat me down? It was all the things I had to learn. Where is my legal? How do I brand it? How do I package it? And it was all those things that I learned at a very small stage that allowed me to then, when I finally had partners and people behind me to scale, I had made all my mistakes small.
So I mean, if you were to package what amount of dollar value, what mistakes that you made since 89 to get FUBU where the $6 billion, what do you think that
I made $100 million in mistakes. Of course, from 89 to 96, 97, I made $100,000 worth of mistakes. But then as I grew to a larger company, $100 million worth of mistakes easily.
So can you talk about how does a guy or a gal, an entrepreneur, you meet with them every week on Shark Tank, how did they get through the phase of knowing, hey, am I making mistakes here, or do I just not have an idea that's practical and fundable, and there's no business here?
Well, most of them are going to get through that phase. The challenge is who's going to be able to survive that phase, right? Because that's the first phase of any entrepreneur who has an idea is, do I have an idea? And often they will fail at the idea, and it will be the gateway to another idea. The entrepreneurs, and those entrepreneurs can live with that because they took affordable steps and they were able to recoup or come back from that mistake. They made a $5,000 mistake or a $500 mistake, or maybe 3 years of spending their hard-earned time, meaning 7 hours a week. The ones that really don't come out of that curve and often learn the hard way are the ones that said, I'm going to take a shortcut because I'm going to borrow $200,000 and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to go and learn these mistakes. So they build a $50,000 website when they need a $1,000 Facebook page. They order, $150,000 worth of product when if you have product in your inventory, you're always going to make a mistake on the first piece of product you have. So if you order $150,000 worth of it, now you got $150,000 worth of mistakes. And that's the difference. Most entrepreneurs learn and fail fast. So they open the company once, and once they fail that company, they learn what they didn't have. They open another company, they learn what they didn't have. Before you know it, in 3, 4, 5 years, they open the proper company with the proper resources around them.
So, and when you were down here in Miami, by the way, people loved you when you were speaking at my gig. So
it's the energy in the room. It was amazing, the energy.
And look, you speak at a lot of gigs. So, I mean, for you to say that says a bunch about the audience that was there. When you talked about, hey, people think that they need money to start a business and it's a big mistake. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, again, people go out and they raise money and they think they need a large amount of money to create a business. Now, if you look at that, the earlier you bring in money or the earlier you spend a fortune of money, it costs you more. So if you have a company of $50,000 and you want to bring in $25,000 to give away 50% of the company. Well, then when you get to $1 million, you've already given away 50%. You got to go raise more capital, and the person you gave away the money to, they're not giving away any of their company. So now, or their percentage, now you got to keep giving away more and more of your company, and you have less. Or if you sit there and you made some mistakes, like me, when I first made the mistakes and I sold $1,000 worth of shirts and I blew the money. What happened was I started to see more people wearing the shirts that I sold them to. So then I took out $5,000 and I blew the money. And then I took out $10,000, I blew the money. But before you know it, I was only out of $16,000. And this was over the course of 3 years. And I realized I had something, and I was able to raise $16,000 on my credit cards or anything else. I didn't have to give away anything. But if I would have taken a $100,000 loan, I wouldn't have gotten out of that. So when I say to people, you don't need money, you don't. You need what our buddy Jay Abraham would say is OPM. Other people's manufacturing, mind power, marketing, mentors, and make money off of other people's mistakes. Use the tools within your hands. The best way to say it is, if you're going to Vegas, you're going to play blackjack, don't start off with the $1,000 a hand table. Start off with the $1 a hand table, play that table 1,000 times, and then you are ready to go to the $1,000 a hand table. But you have to play that. There's no shortcuts. You have to go through it yourself. And if you take money, you're going to just buy a bunch of the wrong type of salespeople, because their job is going to be to sell you and how good what they're doing is until the money runs out.
So I think, I know I started my first business at 29. I had no money. I didn't know that you could go borrow money from somebody to start a business. I didn't know about the Small Business Association. None of my family had money. So I'm like, who's got my money, man? I got this T-shirt that says, who's got my money? Who's got my tennis shoes? Who's got my jacket in the cold of winter? And what I did was I just went and knocked on somebody's door and said, hey, I'm thinking this guy might be able to make my car payment. So I felt in control of my destiny. So when you talk about selling that first hat and realizing, hey, I could actually control the accelerator here,
right,
or the brake, how important is sales to that startup company?
Well, product to me is king, first of all, and after product, it's sales. That's the only thing that's the only reason you're even in business. It's sales. And what you realize from sales is various things. Number one, how to improve the product, right? Number two, how to scale the company. Those are the two important things that you learn, because, I think there was an MIT study that said, 90% of the most productive or the most profitable items in any corporation have normally come from customer complaints. Customers only complain when you sell, right? And they're going to tell you why they don't like it, or they're going to send it back, or they'll tell you why they don't want it again. And we all know that there's only 3 ways to deal with the customer. Find a new one, upsell a current one, or make one buy more frequently. That's it. So as you're selling to these individuals, they're giving you the feedback on how to improve it, or you may get an F on your report card and you got to close the business. But if you're sitting there trying to take funds to make yourself a bigger place, or buy a great chandelier, or bigger advertising, it doesn't matter. You're just putting a Band-Aid on the eventual death that you're going to have. It's when you meet the person and you sell to people 1, 50, 100, 1,000 that you start to realize whether you have a scalable business or not.
So do you think that applies to like tech, merchandise? I mean, you've done it all. So let's look at what a sale is. A sale is a conversion of one thing for another. So whether it's your eyeball on my television show and then ABC selling them advertising, whether it's an investment on the crowdfunding platform, or whether it's buying a hat or buying some kind of knowledge from you, a school, everybody looks at schools, these big Harvard and everybody else, they're into sales. They're into locking you in for 4 years, and 90% of the stuff you use, unless you're going to be a doctor, you probably will never, what you learn, you probably never use, but they just sold you a 4-year course on things you'll never need, right? It's always about sales. So sales is any kind of conversion or exchange of attention, dollars, time for something. So you said product is king, sales is what? I missed that.
Product is king, and sales is the proof on if it's going to be scalable or not.
Uh-huh. So look, when does a person know, hey, I got to surrender, white flag, dude, I can't get this thing to go. Nobody's buying my hats. When you walk across this town, you're in another corner and you're like, dude, I'm selling hats, fathead. I'm selling hats. You need a girl.
Again, so what do we do with sales, right? So somebody's not buying your hats because your hats are either you have a whole bunch of smalls and people are out there looking for extra large, or your hats are 39 and mine are 29. Right. So, a normal salesperson is going to adjust according to the environment. They're going to find out from that person that they're trying to sell to, why don't you want this? And then they're going to keep hitting more and more people. And then they're going to find out where it works. It may not work. Maybe your hat is worth $1. Well, you can't sell at a high-end place. You can't sell at a medium-end place. You may need to sell at the Burlingtons and the TJ Maxxes because you're more of a discount company. But did you try to sell there? Some people create a product. They put $79 into the product, but it's only worth $19. That's not the person buying his fault. That's your fault. You put too much into it, or you expected too much into it. So as a person who owns a company, once you start doing sales, you start to get the real litmus test on what is the value that you add.
So, Daymond, there's 28 million small businesses in America. I don't know how many there are in the world. 22 million of them have no employees. So 2/3 of every small business in America is taking small to another level.
Yeah.
Why? What is the fear? Why would a guy or a gal, and I know I did it, but I want to hear from you. Why would a person go into business for themselves and then not bring on other people to try to scale out and grow?
I can't give you that answer, but I can give you my general thoughts of it. I would think that many of them is fear. They don't think that it can be done, and for some reason, they can't do it. Everybody else in the world can do it, but they can't do it. Yet alone, you know how many of those 22 million single-owned operators talk to me and say, well, I'm not an entrepreneur like you. What are you talking about? You're an entrepreneur. You're paying your taxes. You are out there selling your service, and why can't you scale? Most of them think they can't do it. The very few out there do businesses who just don't want to, but that's a very, very few. But I think most of them have a fear. They say they can't do it, and somehow the information is not there, and they just want somebody to ride around and sprinkle fairy dust on them when they don't realize that people like, I don't know if I share with you, when I last saw Mark Zuckerberg being interviewed by the president, he said he still hears no. He still hears he can't do it. So no matter what level you get to, whether you're Mark Zuckerberg, Grant Cardone, Daymond John, or the person cutting hair, one person who doesn't want to open a barbershop or a hair salon or a chain, we all hear no.
Do you think it's possible that an entrepreneur can be successful just as the solopreneur?
Absolutely. I think they could be successful. What do they feel success is again, the question. If money is just your success, you can still be successful, but maybe the success is you're not answering, you're not taking anybody's crap. You work 6 months out of the year and you get to spend the other 6 months with your family. That's a level of success. Or maybe, you know what you're doing is for charity and you get to travel the world, you get to save animals or stopping human trafficking or get to dedicate yourself to your faith. It all depends on what your form or idea of success is. I'll be very honest. I don't want to have over 200 employees. I want to shoot myself if I had over 200 employees. I don't want to get to that point. So if I can make more money or change the world in a good way and not have over 200 employees and outsource a lot of my business, I'll do that. Now, that's just because I got to the point where I had over 200 employees and I felt like the business lost its passion. I didn't get to know everybody, but everybody has their own reason.
So that you brought it up, what is Daymond John, the people's shark? What is your definition of success for you?
My definition of success, and everything changes every other day. My definition of success lately, and it became real clear to me, has been the word access. A lot of people will say, what is access? Well, access is the Daymond John who stood in that corner and had access to the information I could sell to people, or the Daymond John who found LL Cool J to get me to the next level, or talk to a Jay Abraham to be a mentor of mine, or access to Grant Cardone to even teach me about sales and access. And I've been sharing with everybody this. You know, I got to this point where I have a lot of resources in my life, and a friend of mine was telling me, hey, Daymond, and Grant, I'm telling you this right now, and I hope you do this. He said, why don't you go get executive physicals? I said, what the hell is an executive physical? He said, what executives get? I said, well, I've always been a man who's been my own executive. Why the hell I need to get an executive physical? I go to a place in UCLA, and I got an executive physical 2 years ago because I had $10,000. I'll get an executive physical. No problem. Well, here's what an executive physical is. The people at Apple probably send their top 100 employees over there because they don't want to take out an insurance policy on somebody who's going to take a dirt nap in 6 months, right? So they give people executive physicals. I get executive physical. They're checking these veins. What are these veins called, Grant? Cardonary?
Sure, let's call them Cardonary.
Your Cardonaries.
There's Cardonaries.
Checking my Cardonaries, and you know what they find out? They find out that I need to get my thyroid removed because I have cancer in my thyroid. I got my thyroid removed last week, and now I'm cancer-free from it, but I would have never found that unless I had access. And access is everything, because in 10 years from now, I could have been suffering and out of the lives of my kids. So, by the way, anybody watching this has the resources, as well as you, Grant, every 2 years get an executive physical, because you never know what's going on with you.
Dude, I don't know if I want to know, Sometimes
you want to know. Trust me, I want to know because I'm going to take out an insurance policy on you. So just let me know. I'll take the results.
Okay, so good, man. Hey, I'm glad you're cancer free because I got to do some big business with you, big man.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Absolutely.
But let's talk about some things you're doing right now. You want to start with Daymond On Demand, or you want to talk about Blueprint and Company?
Let's talk about Daymond On Demand first, because I think that this is the type of audience you have that know how to utilize these tools and they understand the value of them. So Daymond On Demand is basically my one-on-one with me and all my great teachers, and I share the $20 million worth of mistakes I have for people so they don't make these mistakes. And they go out there and they can hit Daymond On Demand. It's a platform where you obviously take a certain amount of quizzes on if you want to be an entrepreneur, what's a trademark, a patent, and all these common questions that people have. How do you create a joint venture against what's branding and marketing and sales and all these type of things? And then you can go in there and you can purchase and or learn more about these areas you want to learn about to make sure that you hopefully ensure a little bit more of your success. This is what I call the power of broke. So people learn it themselves and think you can go hire somebody.
Just because I've had a little look at your deal, 24/7 access, on demand, available from a computer, a tablet, a phone, a Droid, an Apple, 2 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Boom! Instant Daymond John.
You can revisit it anytime you want because maybe when you first saw it, you didn't understand it or you had a question about it. You asked a couple of friends. They said, yeah, that's what this is. You go back to it and you keep going back to it. And we keep uploading it with more and more information.
I love that. I cannot imagine. DaymondOnDemand.com is the website. When I was 30 years old, starting my own business, I cannot imagine if I had something that could pipe to my phone. The technology didn't exist in 89 and 94 and 96 and 2010. It didn't exist.
This is Shark Tank on steroids. Honestly, I wish when I was 19 years old, I can see a room of what millionaires and billionaires want to find out from people and how they're going to pitch them and hook them. That's why Shark Tank is amazing, because it shows every single person at home that there's another person out there who's just like you, who's right in front of us, and they got us drooling over them. And this is a way to rewind and ask and answer a very specific question, talk to a coach, a teacher, and learn all this type of stuff that you need to learn at your own leisure.
And the difference thing that you're doing than Shark Tank, because Shark Tank's a lot of entertainment. I got to look at Cuban, got to listen to his ways. I got Mr. Wonderful act like he's not Mr. Wonderful, right? But the other problem is, like, I got to put up with some shows that I'm like, dude, that's just dumb, right? Yeah. With Daymond On Demand, I can drop in and start to understand these things I'm hearing or reading on the Wall Street Journal of Barron's and start to understand them the way a street guy from New York goes from broke to $6 billion FUBU man.
Well, absolutely. I mean, you know what? Some of the stats, we know the stats. 50% of the kids graduating today will retire with a title of something that doesn't exist today. That means kids are going to school for 4 years. They're spending $300,000, and 50% of them don't know what they're studying because those jobs won't even exist.
Right.
Think about that, right? So, like I sent my daughter to school right now. I was about to pull her out and say, no, you need versions of what you're going to do. You don't need to have 90% of crap that you'll never learn and you'll never use, right? So you're wasting 4 years of your life when you should only go for 1 year, or these specialty courses. And that's exactly what Daymond On Demand is. If you're being an entrepreneur, you want to be an entrepreneur, then you need to study about entrepreneurship and exactly what to do step by step by step by step.
Dude, when you were in Miami, you told me that I told you about my real estate business. Okay. And you're like, yeah, real estate's never been my thing. And then the next thing I see is this big announcement that you're doing Blueprint and Co.
Correct.
not real estate.
Well, you know what? So Blueprint & Co., I'll tell you what Blueprint & Co. is. Blueprint & Co. is, again, it's the power of broke theory. You have all these WeWorks and co-share type of spaces out there, and I think they're excellent, and I'm glad they're out there because anybody here watching who's going to open up an office and you're a startup, you need to go to one of those co-share spaces where you could be around like-minded people, pay $300, $400 a desk, and get to learn. And that's exactly what they should do. But people don't realize that guys on our level, we still need to learn. I don't have a room to go to learn with the same people at my level who are seasoned entrepreneurs and are converting social media these days because things are changing every single day. So I created this space where there's a lot of like-minded people such as ourselves up in the same place where I'm finding out what Grant's doing. Grant finding out what I'm doing. We're finding out what Randy Zuckerberg is doing and the Honest Company's doing, and we're all talking collectively. So it's the power of broke for sharks and executives. And, I think it was a need for the product out there. But again, I'm not an expert like you, meaning I don't own 4,000 or 3,000 or 5,000 rentals. It's just not my thing. A lot of people here may think, well, you're a shark. You could do everything. I cannot, because if I could, FUBU would be called Nike. I cannot do everything in the world, and I'm still learning, and that's exactly what I'm doing. Even with Blueprint, it's one big place. It's not like you with 3,000 places. That's just not my thing.
Yeah. So, like it's like Regis, right? It's like a place to lease, but it's like a country club for entrepreneurs.
It's like a cool Regis where you'll come up there and you'll see Catherine Zeta-Jones working on her project. You'll see Randy Zuckerberg, but we'll also have a conference at the end of the day where I bring in a Gary Vaynerchuk or a Sharks, and we're talking about what's the new regulation and laws and making stuff domestically or overseas. How can we convert more people on social media? What large companies can we deal with that are worth the business and they're not thieves? Because, I think that entrepreneurs believe that these people who out there are sham artists and all these kind of people, they only exist on the low level. No, they exist on the big level too. And you don't know until you spend so much money with them that, you waste your money. So just like I say to the young entrepreneurs, you got to roll up your sleeves and get in your business no matter what level you're at.
Mentors, man, all the way up the food chain. I mean, Bernie Madoff didn't take advantage of just poor people.
Very, very good point. Listen, Steve Jobs was a tinker, and he loved no matter what level it was at to stop and go in there and tinker around and fix it. That's exactly what he did. He didn't care. He still rolled up his sleeves and went in there. He didn't just go, well, thank you. That's the new launch of what we have coming out. I'll just sit back and do this.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know who this is Daymond John, man. What's it like to be a superstar, baby?
What?
What's it like to be a superstar?
I don't know. I always ask Mark Cuban,
Yeah, but everybody knows you, man, because you're giving a lot, you're helping out a lot. You've come a long way from selling a hat, buddy.
No, it is fun. It's amazing, and that's exactly what entrepreneurs do, man. If you're fortunate to get up the ladder, you got to pass it down, the knowledge or something else. Because my life is a series of great mentors. That's all it is, a series of great mentors.
And what Daymond said earlier was control of your destiny. Folks, if you want control of your destiny, I know you do. Okay, I know that's what I've always wanted when I saw my mom not be able to pay the bills and having to clip coupons. What I really wanted to do, I didn't want money. I wanted to help her. And Daymond John, I really appreciate you being, generous enough to share your time to help people today.
Well, thank you, man. And thank you for all you do, man, because, so many people want to sell people, all this fluff and feel good crap instead of giving them the step-by-step information on how to go out there and change it, and or fail, but fail quick.
Yeah, fail real quick. That's what my mom used to say. If you're going through hell, skip, son, skip. Hey, buddy, I appreciate it. Okay, I really appreciate it. Any last words? How can I find out more about Blueprint & Co.?
Yeah, so for Blueprint & Co., you go to blueprintandco.com, and everybody, applying will be vetted, of course, and hopefully you can become a member. But maybe you have a great business and you're a great vendor, and we can recommend you to our amazing membership. So, hopefully you have some references and been in business 5-10 years, and we can recommend you to some of the great people up there. And then, of course, you can go to DaymondOnDemand.com for any information on Daymond On Demand, step-by-step, process on how to become a more efficient and or startup, but an entrepreneur all around.
Learn from Daymond's $20 million worth of mistakes. That was probably in one quarter, by the way.
No, it wasn't, but it could have been if I didn't keep learning. Yeah, you're right.
If everybody knew, like, how many failures a guy like you has to go through to get where you finally are.
Oh my God, you can't count them, but I don't know if it's called failure. It's just part of the process. Because every time I fail or I've set back, I said, man, thank God I ain't put a lot of money in that thing just yet. Now I'm ready to rock because I learned all the crap that I shouldn't have done.
Yeah, well, hey, one last question. You learn most from your mistakes or most from your successes?
I don't learn anything from our successes, actually. I've learned most from my mistakes. You see, because the successes that we've had, you know, years from now, people go, oh, you know how successful you were. And we go, no, I guess, you know, but the mistakes, you immediately learn from the mistakes. The mistakes are right there in your face. Hey, you shouldn't have spent so much, or you shouldn't try to sell it over there, or you shouldn't have took your eye off of that, or you shouldn't have put too much money into that and make it $19.99. It should have been $10, and you learn immediately. The successes are kind of in hindsight, and half of them aren't even successes. Half of them are things people heard was a success, and it wasn't. As far as, because, you know, we have a criteria here of what a success is. You heard I'm famous. I don't care about that. Did I make a change in somebody's life? So who's to determine was that a success or not?
That's right. Okay. Hey, Daymond John, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Everybody watching today. Look, this guy's a power player for sure. He's been anointed power player. He's got Cardonaries that are all clear now.
Cardonaries.
And if there's any questions you have for him, post them in the comments below. If you're watching this on YouTube or listening to it iTunes or Stitcher after the fact, I'll get your questions to Daymond. The website is DaymondOnDemand.com, DaymondOnDemand.com. And if you want to know more about Blueprint & Co., check it out, man. It is the new country club for disruptors and like-minded winners.
I like that. Ted. Trademark that. Don't give Grant any of that.
You're the man, buddy.